So just a reminder, we can't see Lenny, so I guess we can hear from him, but he can't vote unless we can actually.
Until he
see.
gets back
Yep.
on, yep, yep.
I'm
okay.
still trying.
Okay,
All
if
righty,
you become available, we'll let you know.
Okay.
okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July 14th, 2022 remote Zoom meeting of the City of Gloucester Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by the Zoning Board of Appeals will be by roll call vote. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or device, there's a raise hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak during oral communication and the public hearing. For the record, this is Zoom meeting ID 813-4325-6435. And I will introduce the members, myself, Joe Parisi, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Chair Catherine Schlichty, Michael Nyman, James Gelati, and Rob Russell. On the screen, I'll declare we have a quorum present, and we'll begin our meeting. We don't have any minutes, so I'm going to take one thing a little out of order. We're going to start with the petition of Wendy Lippy seeking an extension of a previous granted special permit from the Gloucester zoning ordinance 1.10.4 and 1.9.4 for 6 months, which I don't understand to expire on 6/23/23. That's a year from now, at 26 High Rock Terrace. Attorney Ellison, I believe, is represented. We can bring her on and she can clarify that for us.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Deborah Ellison, Ellison Law Office, 63 Middle Street, Gloucester. You are correct, Mr. Chairman, that is an incorrect date. The date for the extension is January 23rd, 2023, not
Right.
June. So we are seeking an extension of 2 special permits. One is a special permit that was issued under 2.4.3 for a reduction in lot width. And that extension is being requested under 1.9.4 for non-conforming uses. And the other special permit was issued under 3.1.6A for a height between 30 and 35 feet, the extension being under 1.10.4 miscellaneous extensions. Because the work was not commenced within 2 years, both permits are set to expire on July 22nd, 2022. And we're seeking an extension, as I said, until January 23rd, 2023, because January 22nd is a Sunday. Both extensions may be issued for good cause found by the zoning board. There are several reasons for this delay. Due to the COVID pandemic, there was limited availability of materials and firms in the building trades that were available for projects of this size and scope. Because the house will be built on piers, it requires a complex structural design. And it had been difficult for them to find a qualified structural engineering firm and one that had the staff to perform the work. They ultimately found a firm, but that firm had such a volume of work and a thin workforce that it took them quite some time to complete that design. That design has currently been completed, and they are now able to move forward, and they have obtained a demolition permit. So the applicant is confident that they can begin substantial construction within the next 6 months. And I would suggest that this shows good cause on behalf of the applicant and would ask the board to grant this permit.
Okay. Any questions by the members at this point?
No.
No.
Okay, so we do We will take testimony, I believe. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. Now, I see hands up, but they look like they're not for what's going on here. Anyone in favor of granting the extension, please raise your hand. Those two have been up, I believe.
Lower them and they can re-raise them? Would you like me to lower them and then they can
Yeah,
re-raise?
put their hands down and we can start from scratch. They may not understand. Okay, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the extension, please raise your hand. I see none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the extension, please raise your hand.
Being recorded.
Okay, first up, Cliff King.
All right, can you folks hear me now?
We can remind everyone, we need your name and address first for the record, and then you can speak.
Sure, my name is Clifford King from 17 High Rock Terrace in Gloucester. I'm in a butter to 26 High Rock Terrace. And I wanted to clarify.
Who's giving us the
Seems to be an
feedback?
echo.
Yeah, we're noticing. Go
Okay,
ahead.
now can you hear me now? It's okay?
Yes,
Yes, so did you guys hear my address? I'm at 17 High Rock
Yeah.
Terrace.
we
Okay,
did, yeah.
yeah, okay, so I wanted to clarify from the findings from the February 27th meeting, a couple of things. One of the things was the loss of view at 17 High Rock Terrace. It was, it's actually a pretty substantial loss of view. It completely obliterates, when they move this thing by 16 feet, it completely obliterates our view of the twin lighthouses. This loss of this very iconic view is actually going to devalue our home greatly.
Sir, if I can interrupt you for a second.
Yes, sure.
We're not rehearing the case. It was already decided and it was already approved. All we're talking about is giving them an extension to build this, to begin building it. And that's due to the reasons stated. So we don't have the opportunity to rehear it or decide or change the decision. Tonight is yes or no, we're going to grant a 6-month extension. And I have to tell you that as long as good cause is shown, and obviously the pandemic was good cause, because we've had many projects that we've had to extend because of it, then nothing's going to change as far as our decision goes.
Is there any way for me to augment the findings? So
Not
that
at all.
It's not at all. No.
The
No
decision has
repercussions.
been written and recorded in the registry of deeds.
Okay.
It's a final decision. You had the opportunity for appeal, which didn't happen. So
Oh, okay. Is there a way for
Unfortunately.
me? Oh, can I get the backing of the board to have my property taxes reduced?
we have no play in that. No, we can't do that.
Okay, well, your decision though will help me with that. All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the extension? I see none. No need for, well, that hand's back up again, the 3019. So we just make sure, bring that in, see who it is. Any luck, Allison?
I think, oh, there we go. Okay.
Is anyone there?
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Catherine Ryan, 17 High Rock Terrace. Thank you so much, CBA members, regarding 26 High Rock Terrace. The advertisement for the continuation request was published on June 29th. No abutter letters were sent, so we really do appreciate the public notice. I've served on several city committees and appreciate your hard work. Please vote to deny the petitioner's request for yet another extension on her Gloucester vacation home. Please request the petitioner and team to start from scratch with a new application because milestone deadlines have passed and irregularities ensued, so much so they don't fulfill compliance as follows. Nowhere in the extension request does the petitioner address that this is a second extension request filed on the very last day of the second year mark, as was the last. Essentially, the petitioner missed the demo deadline twice. Although the committee's petition findings indicate issues were addressed, ours were left out. Notably, the original hearing notice and petition were not in compliance as they failed entirely to mention the special permit relief for lot frontage. And I had grave conservation concerns with the bigger house and no prior filings for 3 poured truckloads of cement deteriorating already beneath the extant structure. Additionally, there is new information that was not disclosed in 2019, nor in this new extension request. There is the appearance, if not actual, conflict of interest with the city engineer and the architect, who was then chair of conservation. We did not know that the architect was the chair of the Conservation Commission. Our concerns were not addressed in the findings report, nor by the petitioner. Is Gloucester concerned about conservation or not? 2, we did not know that the city engineer was a developer and was planning the new street and homes off Washington next to Seall Street. Every special permit and variance request exception may be precedent setting. Municipal law and proceedings are complicated, especially zoning. As residents, we may not understand municipal law and need to ask questions and raise concerns to our elected and appointed officials and city staff. Is the petitioner receiving some special treatment? They're obtaining an economic interest directly without acknowledgement nor recusal. I asked the city engineer about the conservation permits related to 3 truckloads of cement added after an earlier storm that have hastened the collapse of the wall beneath the extant structure. The building engineer said that that was not important. The architect was the conservation chair and the engineer was a major developer with relative context that should have been disclosed. The engineer said, get a lawyer, and what else could the poor girl do? Several of us, the petitioner neighbors, have experienced other coastal storms of significance since then and had to rebuild again, even during the pandemic, one neighbor twice, or replace a roof as we have. Incidentally, the petitioner's roof tiles are in great shape and much of the bones and shingles. After the perfect storm in October 1991, the former owner of 26 High Rock submitted ZBA relief to replace his single-family home, and conservation requirements were part of it. In 4 short months, March 5th, 1992, he was set to go.
Ma'am.
In contrast, the petitioner did
Ma'am,
not clean
I'm
up her
gonna
debris.
ask-
We did
Ma'am.
after the 2018 storm.
Ma'am,
You know what?
if you
This is
don't,
pertinent.
if you
This is
don't-
pertinent. I'm finishing up.
ma'am,
A bigger
I-
home is going to
ma'am.
be more mess.
all
I'm
right, turn
getting
her
to the
off.
point. Is
Don't wanna
hardship
listen
or cost of
to the chair, you're gonna be discontinued from the call. Thank you. We're not here to rehear the case. We're here to discuss by our zoning ordinances if there is legitimate reason to allow an extension of the permit. I will, if the applicant wishes to go to rebuttal, because I see no other hands, we'll allow that, and then we'll move on.
Mr. Chairman, most of the information that was presented was not relevant to the matter beforehand, as you said. The only issue is that this is the first extension before the ZBA. It's not a second extension. There may have been extensions of demolition permits or building permits, I don't know, but that this is the first extension. And with regard to notice, I do not know whether or not they received notice, but obviously they had actual notice because they're present. And that's all I have to add to that.
Thank you. Any discussion by the board? Hearing none.
Is
I'll
hardship of cost of materials and
Mute
supply.
her.
Please turn her
Mute her.
off.
Jeepers.
I'll take a motion on the continuance, please.
On the petition of Wendy Lip seeking an extension of a previously granted special permit from GZO 1104 and 194 for 6 months to expire on January 23rd, 2023 at 26 High Rock Terrace. I would move approval. As the chair stated, the only issue before us and on which we can make our determination is whether there is good cause to grant the exception, not whether the permit should have been granted in the first place. This is a complex rebuild. I think COVID did, and COVID and supply chain issues have caused a lot of projects to delay. I think that good cause is shown, and I would move approval of the extension.
I would second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to grant the extension requested. Roll call vote.
You muted, Bill.
Ms. Slichty,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Mr. Russell,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Heard our decision's favorable. We don't need a decision. We'll have to just draft a memo for the file, I believe.
You do need a written decision from the vote of the board that does have to be recorded.
Okay,
Document does have to be recorded for this.
all righty, thanks. So Attorney Ellison, if you could help us with that, would speed it up.
I can certainly do that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good night.
Okay,
Good night.
we're going to go to our continued hearing of the evening before the new hearings. And this continued hearing tonight is the petition of Peter J. Carboni seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter and expand a non-conforming structure, and a special permit 2.4.5, the demolition and replacement of a pre-existing non-conforming single or two-family residence to allow demolition and replacement of a single-family residence at 2 High Rock Terrace. Before we, Attorney Favaza begins, I just want to
Oh, he can't hear me.
let people, we're going to hold this hearing tonight. We're going to begin the hearing tonight. We're going to listen to the presentation and we're going to take public testimony. At that point, there was a little bit of a mix-up. We had requested a few things be done. One, that there would be the applicant would pay for a new ad for the, for tonight. We asked that the updated final plans be to us back on June 23rd, which they were. The other thing that was requested was that a letter go out to the abutters, anyone that was due notice. And through whatever error, was discovered when one of the people called and said they didn't receive their letter. We realized that all the letters hadn't gone out. But I think the fairest thing, where there's a lot of people on, will allow people to give their testimony tonight. We will leave the public hearing open and we will continue it so that anyone that either didn't see it or doesn't know will have an opportunity to speak at the future meeting, which will dispense with the application. I think that's the fairest thing to do. Unless any of my members raise an objection at this moment, I think we'll start. Anything, anybody? Are we good to continue?
I think
This has
that's pretty
gone-
reasonable. I think that's pretty reasonable and fair.
It's gone on and we want to give people, I don't want people to have to go away again and not get a chance to be heard. So I'll turn it over to Attorney Favaza, who's representing the applicant, and he can make his presentation.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen briefly. Okay,
Uh-oh.
for the record, my name is Joel Favaza. I am an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions with an address of 123 Main Street. I'm here on behalf of Peter Carboni, and he is the owner of 2 High Rock Terrace. The proposed work is to demolish and replace the current single-family house with a new rebuilt single-family house. The background for this particular lot, we are in the R10 district, which is a medium high density residential district. We have an existing non-conforming building on a conforming lot. The lot is a bizarre shape, but technically conforms in that it has proper frontage, proper access, and proper lot area for an R10 lot. But the house itself violates the front yard setback on Twilight Ave. This is a corner lot, of course, so on High Rock Terrace and Twilight Ave, there's front yard setbacks. Currently, the house is 10 feet off the property line at its closest point. And on the side yard setback, it's a fine little thing. The deck actually goes all the way to the property line. I think it actually kind of goes over the property line. For the zoning ordinance, you have this like 3-foot exception on uncovered decks and steps and that sort of thing. So arguably it's 3 feet off the property line. In reality, it goes right up to the property line in the side yard. But it does not violate the High Rock Road front yard setback. They mentioned this is an existing single family home. It was built in 1975. The current owner purchased it back in 2008, and we are in the Long Beach neighborhood for those who are not oriented. The relief requested is actually a very small amount of relief. It is a special permit for the alteration expansion of a non-conforming structure. And it's section 19 and section 245 because this is the full demolition and replacement of a pre-existing home. So the special permit has to clearly state that it's not just the alteration expansion, but that you recognize the existing home is coming down and being replaced with new construction. Per usual, I always include the full set of plans. Anyone needs to refer them. We can come back to these. It was a site plan, 2 sets of floor plans, and a combination elevation plan showing the proposed structure. We've got our map geo assessors data, and the standard to be applied is the typical special permit standard for alteration or expansion. Is what's going to happen here. Are the extensions, reconstructions, alterations going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use or structure? And so obviously we've received recently, we received throughout this process, but recently several letters of opposition and concern from abutters. They certainly will see themselves tonight. I just want to quickly, touch on these. One of the big questions that you'll hear is about needing a variance. I want to make clear we do not need a variance. There are no new nonconformities. Again, as I said, the existing house is in the twilight front yard setback. It's 10 feet from the line. The side of the house is actually 16.2 feet from the line, but the shower enclosure brings you out to about 10 feet from the line. The proposed house will also be, and its closest point will be 7.2. So that's an increase of 2.8 feet. It's getting 2.8 feet closer to the property line. But again, that only requires a special permit. It does not require a variance. It does not require proving hardship. It does not require proving unique topographical conditions. It just says, if the house moves, is it going to be substantially more detrimental to the entire neighborhood by letting it move those 2.8 feet? From a practical application point, I also want to point out, if you look at the plans, even with this relocation, the house is still 20 feet, more than 20 feet from the curb line and more than 25 feet from the pavement of the road. So it certainly won't feel or look like this house is jammed up against Twilight Ave. It'll look like the house is about 20 to 25 feet back from Twilight Ave, which again, it will not be on paper, but will be in practicality. There's also the right to the setback issue. I want to be clear, this is actually being remedied. So not only do we not need a variance for anything in the right side yard, we're actually curing one of the 2 nonconformities. It's going to go from being, pretty much up to the property line to being 19 feet at its closest from this property line. So shifting toward the unbuilt portions of Twilight, again, still feeling like you're 20 or 25 feet off of Twilight, we can actually get 19 feet off of the neighboring property. And the house is also not too tall, and that would be a height permit anyway, not a variance. And the house is also not too big, and I'll go through that in a second. Other issues that you may hear tonight that were certainly raised in the letters, impact to views. As I'm sure you know, the GZO only calls views into question when exceeding height limits. This house is not exceeding the height limit. Drainage is a concern. One point I'd like to make out is a lot of the drainage issues is actually my client suffering from road runoff that comes across their property and actually eats away at some of their property. But the entirety of the roof and driveway are going to need to be accounted for with the drainage plan. There'll be no pulling of a building permit until engineering signs off showing that the entirety of the driveway and the roof are being collected for and handled on site. So to the extent that right now there is any drainage issue originating on the property, originating with the house, originating with the driveway, that's all going to be remediated. So the drainage situation is actually going to improve based on the requirements of new construction. There's also concern about the dunes. As you can see, it appears that the stairs coming down from the deck on the ocean side are kind of coming right down to where dunes are currently located. The first thing I want to point out is that the dune in question is actually a man-made dune. Doesn't make it not a dune. It's still very much a dune. but it was actually planted by my client's predecessor in title along with one of the neighbors. But more importantly, Concom has jurisdiction nonetheless. So if in fact those stairs come down into a resource area or into a buffer zone per resource area, the Concom typically requires a 2-to-1 ratio of mitigation and replication. So if in fact those stairs come down and make an impact, there's going to be, like I said, twice as much area as impacted is going to be recovered elsewhere on the property, because that's the guideline that Concom makes you go through. Another issue that was raised was, well, it's a conforming lot. Why not just build a conforming structure? Because it's a really strange triangle, over 70% of the lot area is setback area. And the remaining 30%, which is a strange shaped triangle. So the idea that you would get any sort of, reasonable house in this triangle, I think, is just misunderstanding the constraints of this site. Another issue that's been raised is the house is too big for the lot. And so all these lots that are in orange, they're what I would consider the closest lots here, the ones that, are most akin to what we have here. And if you look, it's actually, first off, again, not exceeding the lot coverage, and is the 5th highest per lot coverage. There's actually 4 other houses in the immediate area that have greater lot coverage numbers than my client's house does. And I'd like to point out that of those 4, 3 of them are modern construction, 1985, 2014, 2016, right? So it's not like they're just old grandfathered houses that were built, quote unquote, too big. These were houses that were allowed to be reconstructed under modern zoning and continue to have much larger lot coverage numbers than the conforming lot coverage number that this house has. So again, just to remind the board, the only relief requested, the only relief necessary is a special permit under 19 and 245 to allow the demolishing and rebuild of a pre-existing non-conforming single-family home on a conforming lot. That's the contact information for me and the client, if anyone is concerned. I suppose the problem with rebuttal today, so I just want to, state that we have been working with neighborhoods. We've been sending plans around. Susie, who lives with Peter at the residence, was meeting people again as recently as I think early this week, maybe late last week. And obviously, we're happy to continue to do so between now and we get back in August. But I would like to save any rebuttal for that meeting. I don't think we need to get into any sort of back and forth tonight, if that's okay with the chair.
Yeah, there'll be no rebuttal tonight because I'm going to leave the hearing open. Okay, any immediate questions by the board? Or we'll get into testimony. Hearing none. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the application? In favor, please raise your hand. And if you're on a phone, you dial *9 to raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please raise your hand. Opposition. Our first hand is MJ Hartney. Bring you in, and I remind everyone, please give your name and address for the record first, and then you feel free, take a breath and then speak. MJ Hartney, can you hear us? You're not muted. Are you talking?
Hello,
Yes.
this is Len. I'm just trying to check in.
Mr. MJ Hartney, we brought you in. Can you speak? You're unmuted. Should be able, no, you muted yourself again.
He's unmuted. He should be able to speak.
Yep.
Check to make sure your microphone's on your computer.
Yes, MJ Hartney, is your mic on, your audio?
Maybe, Mr. Chair, we can move on and come back to him when
Yeah.
he can fix this technical problem.
You'll have an opportunity, but try to figure out why we can't hear if you're saying anything. Next up would be Brian Green. Please bring in Brian Green.
Hello, my name is Brian Green, 8 Long Beach Road. My house is behind 3 High Rock Terrace, which is across the street from 2 High Rock Terrace. I do support Mr. Carboni's interest in building an updated home, but without negatively impacting the neighborhood and the ocean views. I would have liked to have seen a picture of the current house, then with an outline of the proposed structure, get a better understanding of the reduction of the lines of sight to the ocean views. I've seen similar presentations for other petitioners where the presentation includes like an outline showing how the views are impacted. And I know it's been mentioned that that's something that's considered with some in some other cases. So I asked this board to consider the significant impact of this proposal to the neighborhood due to the size of the proposed structure, the impact of the ocean views, and impact of larger shadows projected. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mark Sincotta.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Mark Sincotta from 8 Twilight Ave. I certainly believe that Mr. Carbone has a right to build on his private property, but within the allowable setbacks that are consistent with the City of Gloucester zoning ordinance, as well as regard to height and lot coverage. So I'd first like to rebut some of the information that you've received from Mr. Favazza, Attorney Favazza. So if you look at the stamped drawings that were submitted by a professional engineer and the zoning table, you will see that the existing setback on Twilight is 16.2 feet off the lot line. The requirement is 20 feet off the lot line, and that leaves, and what they're proposing is a 7.2 foot offset from the lot line. If you look at that in terms of total footprint that they're trying to add, 20 feet minus 7.2 feet is 12.8 feet. So they're asking for a 12.8 foot variance off of the Gloucester zoning ordinance. And I think that a variance is needed there, not just a special permit to do that. Secondly, on the plans themselves, I've noticed a couple things that have gone. First off is the generator. There was a generator on previous plans. I don't see that generator on the plans now. I certainly would hope that if there is a generator, that
Mr. Chairman, can
Yeah.
he please give the date of the plans that he is looking
Yes.
at? to show what
plans
the-
are, sure, absolutely. The plans are as 6/23 on 2022.
Okay, they're not the plans I have.
I'm sorry?
They weren't the plans I was looking at, that's why I
Oh,
asked.
okay.
You
fair
said
enough.
6/22?
6/23/22 are the plans when they were submitted, I believe, and that was the requirement given by the board, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that was, yeah, but the plan was dated 6/18. I believe.
I'm sorry, the plan itself is dated 6/16/2022 on the.
Yeah, you may be right. I
version.
can't read it. Yeah, it is 6/16. That's the plan. we're working.
Okay, that's the plan I have.
But those are the ones that were submitted on 6/23.
Right,
to the
that
board.
was what we had asked to get them early. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Continue.
So, I'm sorry. So we talked about the generator is no longer there. I would hope that one wouldn't be added after construction, or if there is, it would be shown in terms of what it actually takes up in terms of lot coverage, as well as the heated driveway. I didn't see any dimensions on the heated driveway. I did see a reference to it in the elevation plans and the set of plans that were submitted on the 8/6/8 that are dated 6/16. So that information is not available to that. And then there is a reference to foundation in the current elevation plans, but it's not possible to determine the size or the depth of the foundation from those plans. Finally, there was, not finally, but also an outdoor shower was included in previous plans. I don't see that in the current plans. So we want to make sure that that's considered as we go forward. One of the things that I just leave you with is that the total lot coverage is 30,080. And that is defined, that is shown in the drawing A-1.11 and the little square footage table on the upper right. The setback encroachment is 12.8 feet as per the plan. And the length of the structure along Twilight Ave, that dimension isn't given, but with a ruler, it looks to be about 80 feet, 8 inches. So 8 inches equals 80 feet. So basically the total square footage that's being encroached upon on the Twilight side setback is 1,024 square feet. And based on the current lot coverage, 33% of this structure is going to be built in the setbacks. That seems extremely large and exceedingly large. But in conclusion, for all the reasons that I've stated, I believe that the ZBA should deny the applicant for a special permit. If the applicant wants to proceed with the plans as submitted, he should be required to apply for a variance and meet the stringent standards applied to such requests under Massachusetts law. Any such application should comply with all notice and evidentiary requirements and be the subject of a further public hearing. Alternatively, Mr. Carbone should be required to revise his plans to meet the current Gloucester zoning ordinance. I appreciate your consideration, time, and effort on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to be a nuisance with this, but the plans I'm looking at is dated 6/16/22. There are no amendments on them. And it was drawn by Gateway Consultants for the site plan.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring it up is on those plans, and I'm not arguing either way, I'm just pointing out, there is a generator shown between Twilight Ave and the building, and there also is a shower enclosure shown that appears to be outside. And I don't see any reference to a heated driveway. I just want to make sure we all look at the same plans.
So sir, just to clarify that generator, if you'll notice, is inside. That's the existing generator. It's inside of the red line, which will be the new dwelling. So that generator goes away because the structure's there. You can't put the generator inside the house.
Okay,
Also
thank you.
great. It's also grayed out, Bill, as part of the existing structure.
Yeah, I understand it now. Thank you. I just want to make sure we're on the same plans because we have so many. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is the phone number ending in 3019.
Money.
Oh, hi, this is Catherine Ryan. Speaking again, 17 High Rock Terrace, and I missed the hand up for the support. And I'm in between. I just want to confirm, did you say that this is going to be continued? I'm trying to follow what Joel said and you guys related
We
to
are going to
this.
continue well.
Okay,
it'll be
so
subject to
I'm not
vote
a
of the
direct-
members. But there
Right,
will
I'm not
be-
a direct abutter, so I wouldn't have been notified, but I really appreciate this back and forth and the discussion, and Joel and Peter, as a neighbor and working with everybody. So I'm in support, and I will look at the updated part of it and then, come back and see, but I definitely see a difference with this project versus the other ones, and I appreciate it. And then there's a right of way over there, and I'm assuming that's all on the plans and not part of this discussion.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Next hand is Mary Ann Peterson.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity to speak about this, but as you guys know, you've received a lot of documents from the neighborhood indicating why people are opposed. And at this point, Mark said pretty much everything that a lot of us are feeling, and the fact that we have really, not everybody has been included in this conversation with neighbors. So here's the thing. Mr. Carboni's plans aren't complete. We talked about the foundation. We don't have information about all the foundation dimensions, the whole thing with the showers, no generator information, where's the deck that was on the side. Now we're coming into some kind of a permeable something on the side. I'm not quite sure what it is, other than we have two stories now on Twilight Ave that used to be decked, and now it's closer to Twilight Ave. And I'm still not quite sure. At this point, I don't understand why he isn't required to have a variance. I'm also don't understand where he stands with the Conservation Committee, because I had heard from other parties, and I'm not so sure about this, that he has spoken with the Conservation Committee and that there is approval, or that everything is fine there. I'm just trying to understand that. And while Mr. Carboni has the conforming lot, he's, you know, and you're saying that it's a weird dimensions and whatnot, I still see that he has a home that's really, you know, at this point, yes, it's an A-frame, and, you know, I don't have any problem with him going up and having a nice home. But he has to understand that we all want it to be within the right setbacks, and something that we can all live with when we're walking down to the beach. You know, we all as a neighborhood, we had a path that we just constructed a couple of years ago, and it took 3 years with the DEP for that path to go through. And we had 3 different times that we had to have the runoff dealt with to a substantial amount of money. Thank you, Les Bebchek. And we all contributed to that. And I am still concerned about the runoff onto the beach through Donna Sexton's property. And, you know, I know he's come off her property line, but now he's on the Twilight Ave side. So at this point, there's a lot of questions that I have. He's worked with some of the abutters, and one of them specifically who has a lawyer, and he shifted his house to the left or to the Twilight Ave side, and you know, away from her lot. But that's not really the solution. I mean, he needs to stay within his setbacks, and he needs to have a home that is within those setbacks and is appropriate for our neighborhood. Ms. Schlichty indicated that Mr. Fabazer and Mr. Carboni should work with our neighbors in the minutes from the last meeting. My concern is that really the only one that he spoke with at any kind of length was to the one that had the lawyer. No one else really was approached or talked to, and every other person who's had a new home in this area has worked with the neighborhood, sort of like Angie Sakis's property on the way to Niles Beach. The new home's going to be built on the dunes, and I'm really worried about what I know that those dunes, as Mr. Fabaza has said, were built by the previous owner, and we have a problem now. We have no beach other than that area in front of the Cape Ann Motor Inn and in front of Mr. Carboni's property and Donna Sexton's and the Lucci's property, that's the rest of the beach. And if we destroy that part of the property, part of the beach with all the runoff that we see now, I'm scared because that house is getting bigger and we have less, there's going to be less permeable land or lawn and there's going to be more house. So I'd like to understand what he's going to do to mitigate the runoff. And I want to understand where this is going to go with the DEP and with the Conservation Committee. So I believe at this point, as I'm walking down to the beach on the Twilight Ave side, this plan's detrimental. And I'm going to see 2 floors all the way down to the beach from the front of his property to the back of the property, or from the back of the property to the front of the property that's on the beach. So our neighborhood's not going to have the enjoyment of the beach that it has in the past. And we're going to have a beautiful bunch of, no, we're not going to have sunshine. We're going to have a lot of clouds on the beach because his house is going to shine no light onto the beach. So I appreciate you listening to this, and I hope that you understand that we want him to be able to build, but we want it to be within reason and within his setbacks, and so that he actually discusses it with the rest of our neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? The Synergy Group.
Hello there. Hopefully I've unmuted myself.
Yes.
So my name is Paul Cherignano and we reside at 7 Long Beach Road. Calling in to voice our opposition to the special permit, and we mirror many of the same concerns of the neighbors. Specifically, we've got environmental and coastal impacts in dunes, whether man-made or not, that do exist. We've got setbacks that we all have to adhere to. We've all purchased into this neighborhood with the understanding that our homes would be subject to setbacks and height restrictions. This lot is, and I don't remember all my geometry, but an obtuse triangle or the type of triangle that it's the same.
A little more isosceles to me.
Oh, so yeah, so help me with that. It mirrors itself almost, meaning exactly the same house could be flipped the other way and still fit on the lot. So there's no need that I can see, or there's been no evidence provided that there's a hardship due to the shape of the lot when the shape of the lot mirrors itself back the other side. So the house could either be flipped or pulled back and exist within these setbacks with no issues and no hardship to the owner. No hardships, back to the general public in the whole aura of the area. So I don't think there's been evidence of that. So to allow leniency to build into the dunes and into the coastal environment and leave behind a yard that could have been built on, I don't think that there's, to say the lot is weirdly shaped in that we're forced to push it into the dunes doesn't hold water, no pun intended. So I just wanted to voice that concern. And that Twilight Ave, should be a variance also. I mean, Twilight and High Rock of both 20, a corner lot are both 20-foot setbacks. And in one notation somewhere, they're calling it a 10-foot setback. And then when the attorney shows the plan that shows that they're adversely affected by the setbacks on both sides being 20 feet, well, he's not referencing 20 feet on the other side, he's calling it 10 feet. So I don't think we have consistency to the drawings. We don't have proper height elevations anywhere. I don't think it's a well-prepared case that this should be allowed. It's a variance, and if anything else, it's multiple variances. And I
Thank
guess
you. Okay, you all set? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next up is Mark Lacy.
Hello,
Hello, is this MJ Hartney?
it is. I
Hey,
made
you
it.
got on. Okay, we're gonna take you first then. Go ahead.
All right. First of all, I do have to say,
I need to have your name and address, please.
oh, I'm sorry. I gave it before but I was muted. It's Mary Jane Hartney and I'm at 20 Twilight Ave. And I have to say, there has been some misrepresentation by Attorney Faza. The Carbonis have not reached out to us. If in fact it's been the opposite, and so I resent that there's this idea that there's been a lot of conversation or dialogue because there's been very little. Number one. Number two, I live directly opposite Peter, and and I'm also an engineer. So I understand the loss of permeable area facing my house. Right now, it's 16 feet. It should be 20. But when they build this house, it's going to have, I believe it's 100 feet long of impermeable area, non-pervious area. Where's all that drainage going? And there isn't that land to slow that drainage down. We have no stormwater system on Twilight Ave. And my house the basement is downhill from his lot. So none of the plans show how any of that will be mitigated. And we can't even see what the proposed topography will be because there's no elevation. The other part where they want to move so close, my house is very close to the front. It's an older home. And so our living areas are right facing Peter's yard. They're looking at having this patio that goes the extent of the house 7 feet from the lot line. I just better be invited to all the parties because it's gonna really impact the quality of life for us. So I do feel that there is a variance required. I think most of the neighbors have pointed out the discrepancies in the plans. And I don't dispute that there are impacts to the views, but it's more about the quality of life that I will have. And like all the neighbors, we want Peter to build a house, but we want it to conform to the zoning requirements.
Thank you. Next is Mark Lacy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah.
Hi, I'm on Mark Lacy's phone. My name is Susan Furman, 5 Long Beach Road. I just want to be brief, but I am opposed to this project. I think the special permit is a way to wiggle out of what he really needs, a variance. It's going to create a big tunnel for all the people in the neighborhood that walk down Twilight Avenue to the beach. And it's totally baloney that it's a man-made dune, because what was there? Maybe the dunes were worn down and the previous owner replaced them, but it's always been dunes. It's dunes all the way up to Mark's house that was speaking earlier. And yes, we're all lucky to live there. It's a great neighborhood. It's a cohesive neighborhood. Everybody's been friends. Everyone that lives there some of the people have been there for 60, 70 years. And it seems almost unanimous agreement that this is not an improvement to the property, as opposed to what Attorney Favaza just said. He's presenting it as though we're supposed to be grateful for it. I just want to say that he needs a variance, and I think it's only fair to all the people in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else at this time wishing to speak in opposition? Remind you there will be hopefully a continue and people have another opportunity. So at this time, I see none. So we're going to not take any more testimony tonight. However, I am stating for the record, we're leaving the public hearing open. Okay. I'm going to entertain a motion about based on what I had said earlier about continuing. All your points that people have brought up so far have been noted, and I'm sure they'll be addressed in rebuttal by Attorney Favazza. A lot of misunderstanding. Things like the dunes or Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. The drainage will be dealt with by DPW and the engineering department. And what's before us is a special permit to alter and expand. The legislature, when zoning came around, figured out that about 80% of the houses in the Commonwealth were going to be non-conforming. So they didn't want to penalize almost every homeowner. They wanted the zoning regs to apply to new construction. And they created what's known as a pre-existing non-conforming use or structure. And that's what we're dealing with tonight. So it is strictly a special permit that's before us. So just if, people want to look that up and study that a little, that's fine. But I will entertain a motion if any member wishes to indulge and continue this to August 11th, where we will take more testimony from the public. We'll then have rebuttal, and then the board will discuss it and take a vote on the application.
I'll make a motion to continue. First I want to thank the public for all the input. It was helpful to me. On the petition of Peter Carboni seeking a special permit to alter, conform a non-conforming structure at 2 High Rock Terrace, I propose that we would continue this hearing to, I'm sorry, is it August 14th?
11.
August 11th.
Yeah, I'd second that motion. And I think the premise was that there was a concern that some people were not, even if it was legal, they weren't properly noticed. And we just want to make sure there was a lot of opposition, and we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to speak to the hearing. So I would second the motion.
And that motion will include that the letters to the people that are deserving of notice be sent out with the new date by the applicant.
That would be part of my second. Yep.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
I don't see Lenny, so Mr. Russell,
Yes.
Ms. Slickby,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes, we'll continue this to August 11th.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just for clarification, that's the abutters are going to be re-notified, all the abutters be re-notified, or is there?
the normal abutters and abutters to abutters that are on the normal notification
Okay, thank you.
are going to receive a letter about the continuance. Okay, moving on to our new hearings tonight. The first is the petition of Mark Denny and Wendy Friend seeking a special permit to alter and expand a non-conforming structure to allow a first floor addition and kitchen renovation, mudroom, office, pantry, and great room. Second floor removal of existing new roof. I guess we're not going to remove the new roof. Removal of the existing roof and a new roof, dormers, bedrooms, bath, and storage at 4 Nashua Avenue. The representative on the application is represented by Stephen. I'm having trouble reading it, but if we see Stephen here, yes, then we can bring him up. Oh, now it's clearer. Milky.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman Parisi and members of the board. My name is Steve Milky, and I reside at 260 Old Harvard Road, and that's in Boxborough, Massachusetts. I'm a long way from Gloucester tonight. I'm the architect representing Wendy Friend and Mark Denny in their application for a special permit to modify an pre-existing non-conforming structure. Let me just share my screen if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay. This is the plot plan for the proposed work. The addition is primarily behind the house, first and second floor. All of the addition proposed is within and does comply with zoning. The subject area in question is this front southeast corner of the building where it cuts through the existing porch and the existing house. What we're doing at this corner, the modifications we're making really involve increasing, basically building a new roof, increasing the slope of the roof, maintaining the Cape Cod style of the house over the main body of the existing house. And the front porch, we're raising the roof. It's more or less a flat roof at this time, and our proposal is to raise it about 1.5 feet just to give it a little bit of pitch, a little bit of slope to improve the the aesthetics of the building.
So
This is the
Michael Nyman here, one of the members. So you're not increasing square footage in the portion of the building that's outside of the footprint?
No, that's correct. We're not increasing the nonconformity. We're just maintaining the existing footprint and maintaining the existing corner of the house and of the porch. But we're here tonight because of the need to receive approval for the reconstruction of the roof, which does sit over the line. Yes.
So let me just pause for a second. Let me have you
Yeah.
pause this for a second. So do we want to talk about board members, is this more non-conforming? Or do we want to just let him go through with his
No, I think.
proposal? It doesn't seem like it's more non-conforming to me, but help me out.
So it's so again, we got to see the presentation and then we can make a determination.
Okay.
A two-part determination. Yep.
Okay.
Public's entitled to see the presentation.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
On the screen, I just wanted to show the what is the east elevation. This is the elevation facing Nashua Road. This shows the proposed side elevation with the new porch roof extending up to meet the dormer, the new 45-degree steeper sloped roof, and the dashed line underneath shows the outline of the existing roof, which is a lower 8 pitch, and the existing house has a flat roof dormer area whose ceiling heights actually inside don't comply with the minimum height of 7'6". So we're
It's not on tonight?
No, this.
so our proposal is to construct a steeper roof with conventional dormers framed in a Cape Cod style arrangement.
Okay. Thank you. Well, do you want to discuss the first part at this time?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to weigh in on that. I suppose if you look at it, the whole addition is within the setbacks, but they have a non-conforming lot of 8,892 square feet. And they are increasing the coverage of that lot from 75% to 25%. It's still under the 30% lot coverage, but it is intensifying the amount of building that's on a non-conforming. That's an undersized lot. So that's the only thing by which I would say, well, I think it is increasing the non-conformity because it's not just the building, it's the lot that's not conforming. So, you know, for that reason, I might say there is an intensification of the non-conformity. Is it substantially more detrimental? I don't think so, but I do think
we'll move into that eventually. I kind of agree with that analogy. And again, even the dormers and the roof goes up a little bit. So I see that as from the existing. So it's a little, even though it's on the footprint, it's still an increase in mass, I guess. I know. I think we'd have no problem going ahead with the special permit.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
What's before you tonight, what we determined to be the nonconformity to put before you was the corner of the dormer and the full porch roof, which is in the setback, which is being altered. We did not, when we reviewed the plans, did not determine that the addition was going to increase the non-conforming nature of the property.
Well, I guess that's right. I mean, in some way, that's right. You're not making the lot size any smaller. Right, I mean,
I'm just trying to remember for other conversations that we've had. That's all. Listen, I have no problem voting in favor of this special permit personally. So, and I'm not trying to split hairs, but I just don't see that this building is increasing by altering a roof pitch and not adding square footage, you know, in that area that's in the setback. I just don't see that that's increasing the non-conformity of the building. So I'm fine to move forward, you know, with a special permit, but I just don't see that it's more non-conforming. And I definitely don't agree with you that I would agree with Bill that I don't think the building itself is increasing the non-conformity at all, because it's
Right.
because it's conforming except for that little piece that sticks into the setback.
right, it's not making the lot smaller.
It's not. It's not. Right.
I'd like to, rather than, I mean, formally do, I'd like us to move ahead to this, to the special permit and complete that process as an abundance of caution. No
Sure.
sense
Sure.
approving something and then him need, you know, somebody appealed needs to come back. Let's go ahead and see how we decide on a special permit. Okay, why don't we take some public testimony? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application? In favor, please raise your hand. And a reminder, if you're on a phone, it's *9. Anyone in favor? I see none. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application before us? Anyone to speak in opposition? Please raise your hand. I see no one. There'll be no need for rebuttal. Discussion by the board, or are we ready for a motion?
I can make this one if you want. It's pretty easy.
Sure.
Petition of Mark Denny and Wendy Friend seeking special permit to alter, expand a non-conforming structure to allow first floor addition, kitchen renovation, mudroom, office, pantry, and great room. Second floor, removal of the old roof, new roof installed, dormers, bedrooms, baths, and storage. Yeah, per the discussion that we just had, I would move that it is slightly more non-conforming. Is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? I would move that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Catherine. Roll call vote.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Mr. Gilino,
You're muted, Lenny.
still muted.
How about now?
There you go.
I finally got this thing working. I did hear all of the first hearing, by the way, but
Okay.
yes.
Ms. Lichty,
Yes,
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Did you get James?
Yeah.
He would be 6.
No, you got James.
Gelati, yes.
James
I
is
got
first.
James, yes. He was first.
Okay, sorry.
I skipped
Okay.
Mr. Russell, because he'd be the 6th vote.
You've heard our decision is favorable. We will draft the decision. I asked Mr. Sanborn to stamp and approve and sign those plans on my behalf.
Well,
And you'll be instructed on what to do.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Good luck. Yep.
You.
do we have a member to write, or you wanna?
I'll write it. I'll add it to my pile, but I promise I will get. this.
Kyle, what's going on over there?
We have you on record of saying you promised a few times.
I know.
Okay, next up is the petition of Ashburn Development Corp. Seeking a special permit to alter, or expand a non-conforming structure and a variance for rear yard setback to allow to convert existing accessory structure use a barn to a single-family dwelling at 2 Deacon Farm Lane.
Mr. Chairman, although this is not technically my application, I am connected with that and I'll have to recuse myself from anything having to do with this hearing.
Thank you.
Hello,
Allison, we'll call the roll.
can you hear me?
Christopher McCarthy, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I'm talking to you.
Again,
Yes, I can. It's Chris McCarthy, 166 Bray Street in Gloucester. I have the barn structure under agreement to close, hoping to close next week on it. And again, I have a purchase and sale. I just want to go through a little bit of history with the barn. I think it was built approximately 1880s as a cow barn. Later, after that, it was extended to also house horses as well. And going into, it was a farm going into the 1930s and 40s. It then took on a little bit of a new life where it was a sort of a storage warehousing for a company that made valves that you see connected to hydrants, connected to big machinery. They stored stuff there. They also had an office and a lot of paperwork that we ended up finding in reams from the 1890s to 1910, 1920. It was then it continued as and I found stuff that was stored in there that was 70 years old. The Deacons had it still as a farm, had with horses, and it's just really been storage. At one point, Mr. Deacon had it as a hobby. He did worked with some machine stuff in the building, and then it sort of froze in time and came on the market and looked at the structure, see that it wasn't in as bad shape except for the roof as it could be, has a dirt floor in most of it, and asked my son and his future wife if they wanted to restore the barn and turn it into a single family. Thought that they'd say that you're crazy, but my son and his fiance said, no, we'd love to. We want a project like that. We want to restore. We want to turn it into a home, and that's where we're here tonight, because we're going to be looking for a rear yard variance, and I believe it might require a special permit, because once as a accessory structure with its frontage on Washington Street, it's now on the new roadway, which puts the rear part of the structure a little under 8 feet from the property line. Property line that actually, what I found out looking through the title, was cut off. It had plenty of rear yard, but it was cut off back in 1955 when the City of Gloucester School Committee took 22 acres by eminent domain. So that actually kind of caused the loss of land back there. So I'm here with my son, Liam McCarthy, and his fiance, Emily Sarabian. If you guys have any questions, we're basically working on the footprint that's there, going to work on keeping the inner structure there, the walls, it's a pole barn, and going to be going and putting a new skin on the outside and modernizing and insulating and modernizing the inside, also shoring up the foundation in a few spots. So it's going to be a nice big project. And if you guys have any questions, thank you.
Thank you. For
Mr.
clarity,
Chairman,
yes, Len.
Since I haven't had a chance to speak, I thought I was listening to Bob Coakley with all that history. Nobody,
Okay.
I see Michael laughing.
Yeah.
When I went by there, I said to myself, why don't they just move the whole thing down closer? But I thought it was a tear down. I can see why you can't move that thing. It would collapse.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a good project.
Okay, well, so we'll get, for clarification, it's a
So-
change of use. It's a change of
Yeah.
use, so it's a special permit to change the use, which then kicks in all current setbacks. That's why there's a variance required on the rear yard setback. The other thing that my question is, it talks about garage to be determined or to be whatever.
Yeah.
But if this has to now conform, it's going to require a permit. Is it a special permit or variance for an accessory dwelling and closer to the street than the primary dwelling?
That's,
So
well,
if
that's
gonna
gonna,
stay,
no, it's not.
we're-
It's gonna be removed.
okay, so
I
it's
think-
going away.
It's going, yeah, it's going away. It's gonna be used during construction for storage. But it's gonna be going away. It's, yeah, I think it's,
Okay.
yes,
I just want to make sure if we get the relief
Yeah.
you need, if it was going to stay.
thank you.
So it would be the special permit for the alter because of the change of use. And then the variance for the rear yard kicks in. Catherine, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, that was my question too. Is it because of the change of use that we need the variance in the rear? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, why don't we take public testimony? Is anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application?
Yes, go ahead.
Please raise your hand. Anyone in favor?
Just say yes.
Yes, we're in favor. Liam and I would really love to do this project. We love the location in town. This building has so much history, it's had so many chapters in its life. We'd like to give it a whole new chapter and start a family there. So we would love to do this project. My
Thank
name's
you.
Emily Sarabian, 30 Sleepy Hollow, Gloucester, Mass.
Yep. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, I see no need for rebuttal. Discussion by the board or a motion?
Good project.
Yeah, it's great that it's being saved and redone. Be cool. I'll entertain a motion, hearing no other discussion.
Looking for my sheet. I'll make a motion
Go ahead.
in the petition of Ashburn Development Corp. Seeking a special permit to alter and expand a non-conforming structure and a variance for rear yard setback to allow to convert to an existing accessory structure barn to a new single-family dwelling at 2 Deacon Farm Road. I think it's a good project. It's a lot of work, but I know Chris McCarthy works hard, and I bet you his son does too.
And his fiance.
Oh, and she probably works harder than both of you.
I think she
Well, I'm
does.
sure they work out of them first.
Don't be
Anyway,
quiet, Joe. Be quiet. Joe.
motion made, need a second.
Yeah, I would second both the special permit and the variance. And to me, the hardship of the variance just follows with the change of use. Obviously, you can't move it off that granite foundation. That's just ridiculous. So
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Ms. Shruti?
Yes, for the variance, I agree the age and location of the structure creates the hardship of the variance. And yes, for the special permit, I think it is a nice improvement and reuse of the barn.
Mr. Jonah?
Yes for the special permit and yes for the variance.
Mr. Gelati?
Yes on both.
Mr. Nyman?
yes, on both.
Mr. Parisi?
I also vote yes on the special permit and the variance. You've heard our decisions favorable. I will write a draft and would ask that the building department, Allison, you can stamp and sign those plans on my behalf. And we'll get a decision out forthwith. You're all set.
Thank you very much, board.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Allison, as well.
Welcome.
Our next petition is of John J. Bornhoff and Vicky Bornhoff, trustees seeking a variance for rear yard setback to allow construction of a small addition at rear structure at 29 Nashua Avenue. I believe it's Attorney 5 representing. There you
evening,
go.
all.
Hi.
Meredith Fine of 108 East Main Street, representing John and Vicky Bornoff.
I'll tell you why.
Say it again.
No one said anything.
Oh.
Background.
Oh, okay, thanks. And what they'd like to do is add a small addition to their home in order to accommodate their growing number of grandchildren. I'm just going to share my screen here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So first, let me orient you to the site plan. This is the existing dwelling, and then here's the addition. There are 2 rock walls in the backyard. The only relief they need is right here and right here, 2 rear setbacks. I had asked whether the superseding setbacks apply to this property, and the answer was no. So it's a 30-foot setback, and one of the this one's 20.4 feet, and this one is 20.7 feet. So about 9 feet of relief needed for both. This is the current house. This is the front of the house, and here is an enclosed porch. And the Bornoffs would like to keep this porch for its architectural interest. They didn't want to just slice off the porch and put up a big, put up an addition that would square off the house. They like the visual interest of that porch, and they do a lot of living in that porch, and so they wanted to keep it. And then here is the left side of the house currently. Here's the enclosed porch. Then here's the right side of the house. And it matters here that the kitchen and the bathroom on the first floor are both on this side of the house. So if they were to put the addition on this side of the house, they would have to do a whole lot of extra plumbing. And this is the current rear of the house. Here's the enclosed porch, and here's the back of the house. This is the house currently. Here's the porch. They bought the house in 2002 as a seasonal home, and then they rented it out the rest of the year. In 2016, while it was being rented, the house was destroyed by fire. So they rebuilt it in 2017. And in 2020, they moved into it. And it's in the R20 zone. And then this is the current back of the house. So the addition would go right here. And here's the grill. Here's the grill. The addition would go here. Here's the rock. Here's one rock wall. And here's the other rock wall along the back property line. So you can see how small the backyard is, but also too these nice rock walls that they'd like to keep. More of the backyard and more further down on the backyard. So what they're proposing is, here's the front of the house, the enclosed porch, and then the addition behind it. This is the left side of the house, the porch and the addition. The right side of the house. And then this is what the back of the house would look like. This is the current configuration of the house. It's a 4-bedroom house. The bedrooms are pretty tiny. This is the current first floor. Here's the enclosed porch, mudroom, living area, kitchen and bathroom. That's the first floor. Then currently on the second floor, 4 bedrooms, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what it would look like with the addition is here, the 4 bedrooms on the second floor would become 3, 1, 2, 3. Here's the addition. With another bathroom. And then on the first floor, they'd have what the architect calls a flex area, a living area that could be turned into a guest room. And I want to note that this would be a bunk room for the grandkids. The neighbors are for it. We submitted some emails from the neighbors. The neighbors on either side, neighbor across the street, 4th neighbor, 5th neighbor. This neighbor here, directly on the left, Mr. Agnew, would be the ones most affected by the addition, and they're totally fine with it. So in terms of the hardship, they'd like to retain the stone walls. If they put the addition on the right side here, as I said earlier, they'd have to do a whole lot more work to connect it to the house, and they'd need a variance anyway. So that really, putting it over here makes more problems than it solves. There is a very slight slope in the back here. I don't want to overstate that for you. But the hardships would be the financial hardship of redoing this whole right side, and the very nice details of these stone walls. There's no harm to the public good at all. It doesn't undercut the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. And so I respectfully request 2 variances for the rear yard, one for 9.6 feet and one for 9.3 feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions about the presentation?
No, pretty straightforward.
Hearing none. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in favor? See none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Please raise your hand. Opposition. Again, I don't see any. No need for rebuttal. Discussion by the board or motion.
It looks like a good project to me, actually, and pretty reasonable in scale, and the neighbors. I think it was helpful, actually, to have the emails from the neighbors showing that they have no objection to it. I see no problem with it myself.
Yeah, that neighborhood is very picky, and if there were problems, we'd know about it. The thing I like about the new addition is I notice there's a door into that porch that they value. So now they'll have another entrance and more fun. Looks
Yeah.
like a good project to me.
So I just have one quick question, Meredith. So Nashua Street is one of those superseding setbacks, but not this part of it?
I asked, right at the beginning of this, I asked Mr. Cephala. In the zoning ordinance, there's an asterisk on Nashua Avenue.
Okay.
And it says, check with the building department.
Oh.
And it turned out to be like ambiguous. So
ambiguous, yeah.
I just went ahead and just.
Because if it was in part of those superseding setbacks, you wouldn't need to be here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just make it.
Well, and I think, I mean, it's easy enough, this application. One of the things wasn't mentioned is building it on the other side. There was some fair amount of ledge outcropping there too, and would create a hardship owing to that topography. So it does help the case. Anyway, we'll entertain a motion.
I can, if you want, for the board's education, I can explain to you Nashua Avenue.
I'm
Nashua
interested.
Avenue, the
Sure.
zoning district prior to the change in 99 went down the middle of Nashua Avenue about 3/4 of the way. There is a street, and unfortunately, I don't know what the name of the street is, down in the Innisquam when you go down to Rockholm. It might even be Rockholm, but you go down to Rockholm, you take a right, and it goes out. It's a dead end road. that cuts across, and everything from there on the other side was all R3, which got changed to R20. So every Annisquam itself has always been R20. It wasn't part of the zoning change.
Okay.
So
Thank
that
you.
helps you out.
Yeah.
I can
He
make the
knows
motion.
everything.
Catherine, a motion, please.
Michael
Mike.
was gonna make it. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, go ahead,
Petition of
Mike.
John J. Borneff and Vicky Borneff, trustees seeking variances for rear yard setback to allow construction of a small addition at the rear of the structure at 29 Nashua Ave. I would move approval of the variances in the rear yard for the reasons previously stated. I think it's a good project. I like it in the back anyway. I think it's really good back there.
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Mr. Gilliland,
Yes.
Ms. Slickby,
yes, I think it was a nice project. I appreciate that all the neighbors are also in support of it, and I think that preserving those rock walls is a worthy endeavor.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes,
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Attorney Fine, you've heard our decisions favorable. If you'd be able to get us a draft, and we're asking people to try to do them in 30 days, so we don't get pushed against the time limits, we'd appreciate it.
It's,
Mr.
it's, half-
Sanborn?
it's halfway done.
Well, don't tell me that. And Mr. Sanborn, if you could stamp and sign those plans on my behalf, we appreciate that.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Have a
Thank
good night.
you.
Okay. I am gonna ask Rob to participate in this next one, along with Len. I will not vote on this application, but I will begin. The petition of 58 Granite Street LLC seeking a special permit to alter, expand a non-conforming structure and to exceed a maximum allowable building height. Variances for front yard, side yard, lot width, lot area, lot frontage, percentage of vegetative coverage to allow demolition of existing two-family structure and rebuild a four-family multi-family structure on a nearly identical footprint at 53 Granite Street. Attorney Cavazza is representing.
Thank you. Give me one moment, I'll share my screen.
And for the new members, I'm sure Joel's going to clarify everything, but the four-family obviously is not before us. That's going to go to the city council. We're dealing with the footprint and things that would be under our purview, and he'll explain it, I'm sure.
I'm sorry, gotta get the PowerPoint moving. Here we go. Okay, good evening again. For the record, my name is Joel Cavazza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions. I'm here before you on behalf of 58 Granite Street LLC, which is the owner of 58 Granite Street. The principal behind 58 Granite Street is a man named Mike Becker. He's in the audience tonight, should you need to speak with him. And hopefully we'll just kind of get through this kind of smoothly. So the proposed work is to demolish and replace an existing two-family house with a four-unit multi-family structure, multi-spelled wrong, that's embarrassing for me. There's nearly an identical footprint, same height, and we're actually going to create parking where there's none currently. By way of background, we are in the R5, which is the high density residential district. This is a non-conforming building on a non-conforming lot. The existing building violates both side yard and the front yard setbacks and the maximum height. I'm sure some other things as well. There's no parking currently. There's no modern fire safety currently. There's actually some hazardous building materials. There's asbestos shingles on the outside, which aren't the worst, but there was some asbestos inside the building, and that's already been abated by the current owner in anticipation of replacing the structure. The relief requested, as was discussed, is pretty extensive. So we asked for a special permit for height. The building is 33.5 feet above average grade, so that's 3.5 feet of relief. We threw on there a special permit to alter and expand. There's different schools of thought as to whether this is necessary, but again, I'd rather ask for the special permit than need it and not walk out of here with it. And one correction on the variances, the percentage of vegetative cover, right, that goes all the way to 0. And for, I think it was on the application with either an NA or down to 0, but I want to make sure that is out there. What we have on multifamilies is instead of vegetative cover, they throw this open space per dwelling unit. And so it's a different use table, and that open space is actually dealt with on the city council side. But there's a footnote B that says in the front yard, 65% of the property must have the vegetative cover, and obviously we're going to 0. So I want to make sure this is different than the open space requirement, which is city council. This is just the front yard vegetative cover is being brought down to 0, which might not be on this slide. And then we have a special permit for reduction of lot area per dwelling unit, and then also a special permit for the 4-unit multifamily. Here is the relief requested. And I'll probably refer back to this at the end. Per usual, I have all the plans that were submitted. These plan set was included several pictures of the existing structure, site plan on the left, and beginning of the floor plans on the right. I'll stop here just to discuss the parking that's being created. As you'll note, we're not here asking for any parking relief. In the R5 district, you're required to create 1 off-street parking space per dwelling unit. We are showing 6, what I would refer to as compliant parking spaces, meaning all 6 of these spaces are appropriately sized, 9 by 18. There's adequate width to get in and out of them without blocking anybody in. The practical annotations that I've been discussing with the city council is that in all likelihood, at a minimum, you'll find whoever owns the garage spaces here and here will likely be able to, in the condo docs, be given 2 dedicated spaces, because both spaces 2 and 3 will be able to get out around those cars. Additionally, in case of a snow emergency, when blue lights are flashing and everyone needs to get off the street, if everyone's parked throughout the driveway here, I think there's a tree here we have to watch out for, but otherwise, if everyone's parked in the driveway, you can probably get 10 cars comfortably off the road. So again, large events or snow emergencies, even if there are more than 2 cars per dwelling unit owned, you'll be able to get them off the street, despite the fact that the requirement is only 4 spaces. These are all going to be townhouse style. Everyone's going to have a lower level. 3 will have garages. 1 will have a Granite Street parking space instead of a garage. First level is kitchen and eating areas. The center units are a little bigger, so they have a formal dining room. Then the first floor is going to have living area. Again, the large units will have a living room and a family room. On the second and third floor, you're looking at single bedroom, single bathrooms. And then there'll be 4 units left to right. These are your elevations. On the left-hand side of your screen, this is what it will look like face on from Granite Street. And then the west elevation shows you a side shot around the right-hand side. Coming around to the back is the south elevation. And on the right-hand side is the east elevation heading back up toward Granite. And so obviously you're looking at this and you go, well, hold on a second, Joel. If the garage level is down at 13.5 feet and the ridge is going to be at 57.1 feet, you know, that sounds to me like that's a, 42.5 tall building. As you know, in Gloucester, we measure height against average grade, in which you take measurements of the corners of the house. And as you can see on the Granite Street side, it's a 2.5-story building, and is actually probably, notably shorter than 30 feet. It's probably about 25 or 27 feet on the Granite Street side. And so when you average all the heights together, you get this average grade at elevation 23.6, which is right here. And that's how, when you do the math, I'm only here asking for 3.5 feet of height relief. I also want to point out, as I mentioned earlier, that this building is not getting any taller than the existing house. The only change in the way the height is distributed is currently the roof ridge that peak of the roof that runs north to south from Granite toward Gaffney Street is the tallest. And the roof ridge that's running east to west is slightly shorter than the north-south roof ridge. The difference here is that this roof ridge is being brought up to meet the existing roof ridge running north-south is not any taller than the existing roof ridge. Similarly, the footprints of the buildings are nearly identical. The biggest change is in the bay windows up front. There are 2 bay windows currently. There's 2 bay windows being proposed, but the dimensions are just slightly different. And I believe that's an architectural requirement due to the requirements of the front entryway in between the 2 of them, but that's my understanding. Here's just more renderings, angle shots. This is an overhead of the neighborhood. As you can see, it's living up to the R5 program of being a high-density residential neighborhood. Just as an example, in these 2 lots combined, which is only slightly larger than the subject lot, there's 2 units and 2 units. You have a 4-family worth of density across a very similar size point. I think over here it's a 3-family, so we got a lot of dense residential development. And so we're kind of fitting in with the neighborhood like that. So for standards to be applied, I've already kind of sort of touched on some of them, but the height permit, you have to make a finding that the height is consistent with neighborhood character and not detrimental for these various reasons. So as a neighborhood character, obviously this is how tall the house is now. And so it's going to be very similar in feel and look when it's rebuilt. And then as far as impairments or overshadowing, whatever overshadowing or impairments to view there is currently, it's going to be nearly identical, strongly similar, if not identical, is what I would say. So the special permit to alter and expand, you have to say, okay, well, what's going to happen here going to be more detrimental in a substantial way to the neighborhood? And I would argue it's, a substantial benefit. Again, there's no parking currently. We're creating parking. There's no modern safety systems in this, whether it's, modern building materials, modern fire suppression. This new building will be up to code, it'll be fully sprinkled, et cetera. And so again, like I said, there's no increase in the detriment. I would argue it's eliminating a lot of the detriment this current structure has for the neighborhood. And then we get the long one. This is the variance standard. So literal enforcement has to create a hardship. So all the variances about the lot shape and size, lot area, lot frontage, lot width, et cetera, creates an unbuildable lot, right? It's just too small for the R5. You can even build a single family on this thing. Setbacks create an unreasonable building envelope. If you had to be as far off the Granite Street side as required, you'd be pretty much pushed down the hill. You're probably about 7 feet down from the road. So good luck, getting that back up. On the flip side, if you were to require 65% of the front yard setback area be vegetation, same thing. You're just shoving this house all the way down the hill to create this vegetated buffer, and you really won't be able to access it from Granite Street, which is its frontage. You go, well, are these hardships arising from the soil conditions, shape, et cetera? As I just mentioned, a lot of this is being derived by the actual shape and size of the lot. The rest of it, the side yard setback variances, are also being driven by the fact this is where the house is, right? This is where the footprint is. This is where the familiar outline of the building is. And so in order to keep those consistent, you're going to violate the setbacks. And then secondly, as I mentioned again, it's an incredibly steep lot. It's 15 feet of elevation change from front to back, and it just makes things difficult to try and comply. So then you have to go, will this relief, if granted, be detrimental to the public good? Will it go against what the GZO is trying to accomplish? And I'd say again, to the opposite, we're creating needed additional housing in the R5 district, taking an unsafe building and replacing it with modern construction, creating parking. And again, we're going no taller and no closer to lot lines than the existing structure. So to the degree that it violates now, it's not any worse when this is done than it is currently, but the rest of these things that you look at in totality get better. And so again, I will scoot back to this slide if anyone wants to take a screenshot or try and hopefully have it in your packet. This is the relief being requested. Again, it's lot area, lot width, lot frontage, front yard setback, left yard setback, right side yard setback, percentage of vegetated cover. This is NAs on it for some reason, but we are asking for 0, and maximum building height as a special permit. So I thank you for your time. I know that was kind of long, and as the chair who's recused himself stated, this is only a gateway set of relief. We have begun the process with City Council. We had a meeting at P&D 2 weeks ago. this week, so last week we had a meeting with P and D. Monday, we had a site visit with P and D. And we're going back to P and D, which is the Planning Development Standing Committee of the City Council, going back to them next Wednesday, hopefully for recommendation up to the full council. And it'll be up to them to actually make final determination whether we can reduce the lot area per dwelling unit and the open space per dwelling unit. It'll be up to them to decide whether or not a 4-unit multifamily use is appropriate for the site. You are basically the gatekeepers to let me get to that second phase by basically reauthorizing the footprint and the height of the existing structure as a rebuilt structure. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's pretty wordy, and I'll pause there for now. Thanks.
One quick question, is the access easement been obtained, or is that already in place?
The access, there's a purchase and sale that has been signed. The purchase and sale is contingent upon permits coming through, and then we would expect that the city council permit, as we've offered in our filing there, that their special permit would be conditioned upon the sale going through.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the application at this point? Hearing none, we'll go to the public testimony. Is anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone in favor, please raise your hand. I see none. Is anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Again, if everyone looks like they're on a device, you press to raise your hand, you press the device. I see no one wishing to speak in opposition, so we'll close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion or discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question for Joel.
Yeah.
The garage, ceiling of the garage, basically floor, then, the structure for the next floor, what's that made out of? What is the garage going to be basically constructed with?
You asked me the building material for the garage?
Yes. Basically the ceiling.
So if you want to let Mike Becker in, he has his hand up, he would know better than I as the building material of the garage itself, if that's okay.
Well, multifamily, you're gonna meet the fire rating.
Well, what I'm getting at, and it's going to be a big deal, is the picture he's showing now is a 5-story building. You can only build a 4-story building out of wood. So I guess what I'm getting at is
steel beams.
No, it has to be a concrete slab, similar to what was done at 206 Main Street. The first commercial units are all concrete with a concrete ceiling to separate it from a different type of building. And I believe that's what Mike doesn't have to come on and do that. I just want to make it aware because it's a big cost and make it aware that that may be a problem. Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Just one comment here. I went down to the road below it and looked back up at that building, and the mass of the new building is just going to make it look gigantic. And I thought, coming back and thinking about it, I said, well, if there's resistance from the neighborhood, I would probably vote no, but it looks like an improvement to me and nobody's complaining. So, I think it's probably a really good project.
Anyone else? We're ready for a motion.
Well, my only comment is that I think it's a good project, actually. I think it's a nice use of an old lot and an old plan, but that unit on the left only has one bathroom and it's on the top floor. I mean, it's not really something within our purview.
Not something before us.
Maybe I'm speaking of my age,
there's
but I'm
two.
like, that is, bathroom's a long way away.
Sorry to
Can I have
interrupt, there
one
are
more
two.
question? One more question, if I could. Again, it's not in our purview. There's a tree in the backyard. Will that have to come down?
The easement is set up so the tree will remain, and you'll actually come in. You're looking from Gaffney at the tree. You'll come into the right of the tree and pull around it to get into these garages. So the tree should be fine. It's a good shape. The city councilors had the same question, so we've told them as well.
That'll soften the look on the back a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think my only comment is, and I think it's a good project too. I'd like it better as a 3-family personally instead of a 4. But I'm guessing that it's probably not economically feasible, especially with the building inspector making you put a concrete structure down there on the first level with the concrete floor. So I think that's going to make it even harder. So anyway, I'm not looking to kill a decent project. So
Let's entertain a motion.
Catherine, I think, yeah, you're going to have to do this one, Catherine. There's a lot to it. I could do half of it maybe, you know.
I'm just reading off the agenda, so.
No, I know that.
On the petition of 58 Granite Street LLC, seeking a special permit to alter and expand a non-conforming structure, a special permit to exceed the maximum allowable building height. Variances for front yard, side yard, lot width, lot area, lot frontage, percentage of vegetative coverage, and thank you for explaining the frontage to us because I didn't understand. Percentage of vegetative cover to allow demolition of an existing 2-family structure and would build a 4-family multifamily structure on the same footprint at 58 Granite Street. I would move approval of all of the requested relief. I do think it's a great improvement. I think it's a, you know, it gives more housing. It's rehabbing an old building. It's providing parking, which I think is important. Updating it, making it a safer residential structure. And I do think that trying to meet the it sounds like a lot of relief, but partly it's because you're converting from a 2 to a 4. And I think to like relocate the existing structure from where it is to move it back or to meet other setbacks, you're not going to achieve the greater good of 4 units. So I would move approval of all of the relief requested.
Yeah, I would second that. And I think it's obviously, it was commented earlier, it's going to be a much, much, much safer structure for the residents who live in that structure, but also for the 2 houses that are very close to that structure. So clearly an improvement.
We have a motion made and seconded. We'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Slickby,
Yes, on all the relief requested.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes, for all the relief requested.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes, for all the relief requested.
Mr. Gilino,
Yes, for all the relief requested.
Mr. Russell.
You're muted, Rob.
Where'd he
Still
go?
muted.
He's right there. I just
Right
got him.
there. Yes,
Go ahead.
for all the relief requested.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard our decisions favorable. We'll need a decision written draft over to us and we get that process. And good luck with the city council. And Mr. Sanborn, if you'd stamp and sign those plans on my behalf, I appreciate it.
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, members. I don't know if everybody saw the notice, but we do not have a meeting on July 28th. There was only one application in this month. So we will skip that meeting and we will meet on August 11th. And a couple weeks before that, we'll have the packets available and everything. And anyone that's going to be away or can't make it, let me know sometime before then so we can plan coverage and quorum. Anybody else, anything else to comments? Want to add anything?
A couple of notes, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
I've been trying to get an answer out of the administration as to what happens after July 15th. My understanding is as for meetings. My understanding is there's some 3 or 4 different articles trying to get through the legislative or different versions of it. I don't know where they stand as of today, but the administration's feeling is we're going to continue as we are until something happens. I don't know if that will change because my understanding is the governor's emergency orders runs out on July 15th. So luckily, it's not going to affect our next meeting, but it may affect the August meeting. Also, the other problem is getting decisions signed. We're starting to get a lot of static from a lot of people, including the administration, of how long it's taken. We've had a few that have gone over the limit. So I looked into doing something similar to what the council does, which would be only the council president signs the actual decision. However, that would have to go back before a meeting. All the members have to vote to accept it, and then the president, the chairman could then sign it. We would also have to change our rules and procedures to do that. So it's quite a drawn out affair. Don't think it's worth it, considering we wait and find out what's going to happen with the change, or whether we can go back to the public meetings, which I hope we can, or something they're part of that. But I would encourage you, please try to get over there as soon as you can when decisions are in, so we can get them signed and keep these projects moving.
I mean, I think most of it is waiting for the decisions to come in from outside. You know, we got a
Yes.
lot that were hanging out there. That's why I'm now telling them to get them to us in 30 days. You know,
Yes, it's better.
because then we can turn it around.
What would it require to change our rules and procedures so that the chairman can sign the decisions?
It's probably a simple matter of putting it on the agenda and having it on the next meeting to change the procedures. It says we're supposed to review the procedures once a year in January, the first meeting in January. I don't believe that was done this year, but I don't think anybody had any issues with changing anything. But I don't see why somebody can't bring it up to have it voted on at the
So
next.
it has to be a duly noted advertised public hearing to do it. Last one we did was on January 25th, 2018. So it's 48, section 12. So we can have a hearing, we can amend the rules. So we would just say that all decisions, when finalized, would come back. So we'd have a vote, kind of like the minutes, for each
Right.
decision that was ready. And then I would, or whoever the chairman was, would be able to just sign them. So, I mean, sometimes that'll take longer, sometimes that would be quick. I don't know. But we would have to advertise that we were reviewing the rules of procedure and then make an amendment to them at that time.
Would that be an advertisement or just on an agenda? I think it just doesn't say an
That's
advertisement.
following a duly noticed public hearing.
Right, and I believe that,
would
Joe,
be
would be
advertised.
on an agenda, I believe.
Um,
I'm not positive. I can verify that anyways if we need to.
well, if we can remove an obstacle towards getting the decisions out, I think we should consider it, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it would be any quicker because typically we're in public. Those decisions that we would vote on tonight would have been sitting in front of us and we would have signed them.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know that it's gonna ever save us any time unless we continue this game of not working for the public in public. I mean, if that thing doesn't get extended Friday, it would be against the law for us to not meet in public.
That is true, but I'll leave but.
Well,
Just
I
one,
frankly, I think it would be a shame not to have meetings that can't be broadcasted. in public.
That's, I agree. But you can't break the law to wait till we get that together. You got to go back regular by law. And then if they want to add a feature of having people being able to see it like they used to and participate, I'm all for it. But they're using that as an excuse not to have to set the chairs up in City Hall, as far as I'm concerned. So,
just one thought on having the chairman sign the petition. I think it would be helpful to have a note on it, who wrote it, especially if there's only one person signing for it, in case we ever had to backtrack.
Well,
Just a thought.
you would be voting to approve it instead of signing it. So it would be at a meeting, they'd be presented at a meeting similar to the minutes, and the board would vote to accept that decision as written. So it comes from the board. Any decision comes from the board, not an
Yeah, we'd have-
individual person.
instead of us 5 or 4, whatever signing, we would vote that we agree with the decision as written. Everyone would get those ahead of time to be able to
Okay.
review and then we'd vote on them that night. And again, I'm not sure.
So in that case, it will slow it down because it's
Yeah.
another meeting till you can, yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
don't know that it would help.
If we're meeting in person, it will slow it down, I think, yes.
Yeah,
If we stay in a
you
digital
don't
format, what about DocuSign? I mean, everybody buys a house nowadays, but the DocuSign opens.
Yeah,
up-
but still,
well, a lot of that discussion is, there's a big thing about notary publics right now, it was in the news today. How they're trying to extend that, but the state secretary said, well, hold on now. That, we don't have that legally set up. That was a temporary thing, and who's gonna pay for it? And so it's not finalized. And especially where zoning is all to do with registered, recorded and things. You really gotta be careful, but
Massachusetts has not accepted a remote notary signing, yeah.
yeah,
and there's still a lot of questions on electronic signatures. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure, you would know, Catherine, does the registry accept electronic signatures?
No.
That's what I thought, yeah.
so yeah, there's a lot, the legislature gets way involved in too much stuff in our lives. But anyway,
That they do.
Just figured that out.
nothing else. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless anyone has something else they want to talk.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second,
Roll call vote on adjournment.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes, please.
Mr. Gyllenhaal,
yes.
Mr. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Ms. Slichty,
yeah.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes, we are adjourned officially. Everybody have a great summer. We'll see you in August.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you.
Take care, all.
Weeks
I
and
may be
I.
checking
Good
into
night.
the next meeting from Maine, so I will,
Well, it'll
All right,
be a
as long as you're not talking.
Where are you
I
fast
going
don't
in
know
Maine?
my Wi-Fi connection, but we'll try.
Where do you go in Maine, Catherine?
Up to Liberty, Lake St. George. My sister has a little camp up there.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey.
originally from Waterville, Oakland.
Oh,
Northwest.
really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ah.
Can't you tell?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
All
night,
righty.
everyone.
Have a good night.
See
Take
y'all.
care.
All right, everybody. Bye.
Thank you all.